Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. When a woman learns the power of detachment, she becomes a force a man simply cannot resist. And I'm not talking about playing games, acting cold, or pretending you don't care. I'm talking about a woman who has mastered the ability to walk away from anything that does not honor her, respect her, or grow her. That kind of woman becomes unforgettable. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood powers a woman can develop, and yet it is the very thing that transforms how a man sees her, treats her, and values her. People hear the word detach and think it means shutting down emotionally or walking around like you don't care about anybody, but that's not what true detachment is. True detachment is rooted in self-respect, self-awareness, and standards that are non-negotiable. Detachment is the ability to love someone deeply while still keeping your sense of identity, dignity, and independence intact. It is loving without losing yourself. And let me tell you, when a woman masters this, she becomes magnetic in a way that men cannot shake off. Because here's what most women don't realize. Men are drawn to confidence. A man is instinctively attracted to a woman who knows who she is, what she deserves, and what she will not tolerate. When a woman is chasing, over-explaining, over-giving, and constantly proving her worth, she shifts the dynamic. She gives the man all the power without even realizing it. She becomes predictable, accessible, and emotionally available in a way that makes him comfortable. And a comfortable man doesn't try. A comfortable man doesn't chase. A comfortable man doesn't grow. But a man who senses that a woman is willing to walk away from anything that disrupts her peace becomes a man who starts rethinking his behavior. Detachment is not about being cold. It's about being clear. It's about saying, I'm here because I want to be, not because I'm scared to leave. It's about showing up with love but not selling your soul for it. A detached woman doesn't argue over bare minimum efforts. She doesn't cry to prove a point. She doesn't beg a man to see her value. Her silence, her standards, and her boundaries do all the talking. Let me paint you a picture. A woman who hasn't learned detachment will give, and give, thinking that the more she gives, the more the man will appreciate her. She thinks effort equals loyalty, patience equals love, and sacrifice equals commitment. But to a man who isn't ready or willing, all that does is tell him he doesn't have to do anything to keep her. He figures she's not going anywhere, no matter what he does. And that's when he starts taking her for granted. That's when he starts showing less effort, less consistency, less communication, because why put in work when he thinks he's already secured her? Now picture a woman who has learned to detach. She doesn't stop caring. She doesn't stop loving, but she stops overextending. She stops centering a man who isn't centering her. She stops making excuses for behavior that is clearly showing her everything she needs to know. She stops trying to change him, fix him, or save him. She stays soft, but she stays selective. She stays loving, but she stays aligned with her standards. And that shift right there is what wakes a man up. Men are hunters by nature. They chase what feels just beyond reach. They pursue what feels valuable, rare, and not easily accessible. When a woman is too available, too predictable, too eager, the thrill fades, the effort fades, the respect fades. But when she shows that she has a full life outside of him, goals that don't revolve around him, joy that does not depend on him, and boundaries he cannot cross without consequences, he starts to rise. He starts to fix his posture. He starts thinking twice before disappointing her. Because now he knows her love is deep but not desperate. Her heart is open but not exposed. He feels her but he cannot control her. A detached woman understands that a relationship is a choice, not a prison. She understands that being loyal does not mean being blind. She understands that her peace is the most valuable asset she owns, and she protects it like a queen guards her kingdom. She observes actions more than she listens to promises. She pays attention to patterns more than she reacts to words. She knows that if something feels off, something probably is, and she trusts herself enough to walk away if she needs to. Men cannot resist that energy because it challenges them. It invites them to be better. It inspires them to give effort. It awakens their sense of accountability. A man who once thought he could play with her time starts respecting it. A man who once took her generosity for granted starts earning it. A man who once believed she would always stay begins to understand she doesn't stay where she is not valued. And here's the part most people won't tell you. A detached woman is not detached from love. She's detached from the fear of losing love. That is what makes her powerful. She's not scared of being alone. She's not scared of starting over. She's not scared of disappointing a man who keeps disappointing her. A woman who loses fear becomes a woman a man cannot replace, because most women love with attachment, anxiety, and insecurity. But a woman who loves from strength, from balance, from self-respect, that's the woman who shifts a man's entire world. Detachment teaches a woman to love without begging, to give without losing, to stay without sacrificing, and to walk away without breaking. And when a man sees that in her, he realizes he's dealing with a woman who chooses him, not one who needs him. That difference right there is why men cannot resist women who detach. A woman who prioritizes herself becomes a woman a man cannot forget, cannot ignore, and cannot replace. There is something powerful, magnetic even, about a woman who knows her worth so deeply that she puts herself first without apology. And let me be clear, prioritizing yourself doesn't mean you love a man any less. It means you're smart enough to understand that a relationship cannot thrive if you are pouring from an empty cup. When a woman chooses herself, she becomes whole. When she becomes whole, she becomes radiant. And when she becomes radiant, every room she walks into feels that glow, especially the man who thought she would always put him first. See, a lot of women fall into the trap of thinking love means sacrifice, and sacrifice means giving up everything that makes them who they are. They stop spending time with their friends. They stop chasing their dreams. They stop taking care of their emotional and mental health, and they stop nurturing their own identity. Everything becomes about him, what he needs, what he wants, what makes him comfortable. And little by little, they disappear into the background of their own life. And the sad part, the more they sacrifice, the more the man expects it. The more they give, the less he appreciates it. Because anything that comes too easily is taken for granted. That's just human nature. But a woman who prioritizes herself doesn't disappear. She becomes more visible. She becomes a woman with passions, goals, standards, and a life that is bigger than any relationship. She knows she has purpose. She knows she has value. She knows she has desires that matter just as much as anyone else's. And she makes decisions from a place of strength, not fear. That kind of woman doesn't have to beg a man to step up. Her presence alone demands respect. When a woman starts putting herself first, everything about her shifts. Her confidence grows. Her energy rises. Her voice becomes steadier. Her boundaries become clearer. She becomes grounded in who she is instead of who she thinks she needs to be for someone else. And let me tell you, a man feels that shift before she even says a word. He sees her becoming her best self. And suddenly the things he thought he could get away with don't fly anymore. Suddenly he realizes she's not waiting around for him to change. She's changing her life with or without him. This is the thing that men don't always understand until it's too late. A woman who puts herself first is not abandoning her partner. She's inviting him into a healthier, more balanced dynamic. She's showing him how to treat her by how she treats herself. If she takes care of her mind, her body, her goals, her peace, then he knows he needs to contribute to that environment, not disrupt it. If she respects herself, he knows he can't disrespect her. If she values her time, he knows he can't waste it. She becomes the standard. And a man either rises to meet a standard or watches himself fall short. The truth is, when a woman centers her entire world around a man, she becomes predictable, accessible, and easy to manipulate emotionally. Not because she's weak, but because she's loving too hard without boundaries. But when she centers her world around herself, her happiness, her growth, her healing, her dreams, she becomes unpredictable in the best way. She becomes a challenge. She becomes a mystery. She becomes someone he has to work for, invest in, and pursue with genuine effort. A woman who prioritizes herself doesn't make a man her only source of happiness. She finds joy in her friendships, her hobbies, her career, her passions, her spiritual journey. She fills her life with things that light her up, not things that drain her. And when a man sees that she can be fulfilled without depending on him, it pushes him to become a better partner. Because now he's not the center of her world, she is. And a woman who is the center of her world is a woman a man respects. Let me tell you something else. A woman who prioritizes herself becomes more attractive because she no longer moves from desperation, insecurity, or fear. She's not scared of losing a man because she knows she can rebuild her life with or without him. She's not granting access to a man who hasn't earned it. She's not settling for half effort or inconsistent behavior. She knows her worth, and she knows that her value doesn't decrease based on someone else's inability to see it. When a woman takes care of herself emotionally, mentally, financially, spiritually, and physically, she becomes powerful. Not the loud kind of power that demands attention, but the quiet, steady power that commands respect. A man can't overlook that kind of power. He can't ignore it. He can't forget it because it touches something in him that makes him want to do better. And here's the blessing. When you prioritize yourself, you don't lose anything. You gain everything. You gain clarity. You gain strength. You gain self-esteem. You gain peace. You gain independence. And ironically, that is exactly what makes a man more committed, more attentive, and more invested, because men are naturally drawn to women who walk with purpose, women who have boundaries, women who have discipline, women who don't collapse into a relationship, they add to it. A woman who prioritizes herself doesn't chase love, she attracts it. She doesn't fear Bane. G misunderstood, she knows her truth. She doesn't settle for less, she waits for what aligns. And that energy is irresistible to a man who is ready and mature enough to appreciate it. Men chase what they can't control, what they can't predict, and what they can't take for granted. That's human nature, and it becomes even clearer in relationships. When something feels too easy, too available, or too guaranteed, people stop valuing it. But when a woman carries herself with a quiet strength, when she's loving but not needy, present but not clingy, available but not dependent, she creates a kind of mystery that ignites a man's natural instinct to pursue. He becomes curious, he becomes attentive, he becomes invested, not because she played a game, but because she is not something he can simply claim without effort. See, a lot of women think loyalty and devotion mean giving a man everything up front. They think if they show him they're serious from day one, he'll appreciate it. But most of the time, what happens is the opposite. The more predictable a woman becomes, the more a man settles into comfort. He stops trying because he feels like he doesn't need to. He knows where she is. He knows she'll respond immediately. He knows she'll adjust her schedule around him. He knows she'll tolerate inconsistency. And so he doesn't feel the urgency to step up. He assumes she's always going to be there no matter how he behaves. But when a woman is unpredictable in a healthy way, when she has her own rhythm, her own goals, her own life, then he knows he can't get away with laziness. He knows he can't lie to her and expect her to stick around. He knows he can't put her last while she puts him first. And let me tell you, nothing wakes a man up faster than realizing he doesn't have full control over a woman's attention or emotions. Not because she's withholding on purpose, but because she's genuinely not centered around him. A woman who cannot be controlled is a woman who commands effort. A woman who cannot be predicted is a woman who commands presence. A woman who cannot be taken for granted is a woman who commands respect. And that combination right there is irresistible to a man who is built to rise. Let me break it down even deeper. Men are wired for the chase, but not the kind people think. It's not about playing coy or pretending you're busy. It's about being genuinely fulfilled in your life so no man becomes your entire source of validation. A woman who is fulfilled focused, disciplined, and emotionally balanced, doesn't react to everything he does. She doesn't blow up his phone when he acts distant. She doesn't fall apart when he pulls away. She doesn't rearrange her entire life just to accommodate him. She continues with her life. She continues with her goals. She continues being who she was before he came along. And that stability shakes a man. It forces him to level up, because now he knows he is dealing with a woman who is not going to fall for laziness or empty promises. He knows he cannot keep her with sweet talk alone. He must back it up with action. He knows she will not stick around for potential. She expects consistency, respect, and growth. When a man knows he can't take a woman for granted, he pays attention differently. He communicates more intentionally. He puts in more effort. He chooses his words carefully. Because now he realizes her value isn't measured by how hard she fights for him. It's measured by how little she needs to. A woman who cannot be controlled emotionally is also deeply attractive because she becomes unpredictable in how she moves. Not in a chaotic or dramatic way, but in a balanced and self-assured way. One day she might be deeply affectionate and loving, and the next day she's in her world, working on herself, handling her responsibilities, growing her life. That unpredictability keeps a man intrigued. He doesn't know what mood she'll be in, not because she's unstable, but because she has a full life. He doesn't know when she's free, not because she's avoiding him, but because she prioritizes herself. He doesn't know how much access he'll have, not because she's playing hard to get, but because access is earned, not handed out. Men fall hard for women they cannot fully predict because mystery creates desire. When a man can't predict how a woman will react, he stays on his toes. When he can't predict her next move, he pays more attention. When he can't predict whether she'll tolerate something, he treats her with more intention. A man will always chase what feels uncertain, not unstable. There's a difference. Unstable is unhealthy. Uncertain is intriguing. One pushes a man away, the other draws him in. The moment a woman becomes too predictable, emotionally available at all times, forgiving without limits, waiting by the phone, rearranging her plans, she loses the depth that makes her compelling. Men don't fall for ease, they fall for essence. And essence comes from individuality, from strength, from independence, from a life that is full and whole without needing a man to complete it. A woman who cannot be controlled is deeply attractive because she has emotional boundaries. She doesn't argue to be understood. She knows who she is. She doesn't beg for attention. She gives herself what she needs. She doesn't panic when things shift. She adjusts with grace. She doesn't crumble when disappointed. She keeps moving. That calm confidence is something a man cannot shake off. It stays in his mind. It stays in his chest. It stays in his memory long after she leaves the room. And when a man feels he might lose that kind of woman, he starts to change. Not because she demanded it, but because, say, her presence inspired it. A man will chase a woman who cannot be controlled, not because she's difficult, but because she's exceptional. Emotional independence is one of the most powerful qualities a woman can have because it forces a man to reveal who he truly is. When a woman is emotionally independent, she isn't controlled by her fear of losing someone, she isn't guided by insecurity, and she isn't shaped by what a man thinks of her. She loves freely, but she doesn't love blindly. She gives generously, but she doesn't give at the expense of herself. And let me tell you, when a woman reaches this level of maturity, a man can't help but step back and decide whether he's willing to match her strength or walk away. Either choice tells her everything she needs to know. A woman who is emotionally independent doesn't operate from desperation or the need for external validation. She doesn't fall into the traps of overthinking, panicking, or chasing attention. She knows her value without needing someone to constantly reassure her. She knows her heart matters without needing a man to prove it every day. She knows she's worthy of love without begging for consistency. And this creates a dynamic shift that most men aren't ready for, because a woman like that is not easily manipulated, swayed, or emotionally shaken by small behavior changes. A woman who is emotionally dependent reacts to everything. If he doesn't text back quickly, she spirals. If he acts a little distant, she panics. If he seems uninterested, she starts bending over backward to draw him back in. But a woman who is emotionally independent, she stays collected. She observes. She doesn't jump to conclusions. She doesn't assume the worst. She doesn't chase clarity from someone who isn't offering it. She gives space for a man to reveal his intentions instead of forcing answers out of fear. And that right there, is what makes her powerful. Emotional independence teaches a woman not to make decisions from loneliness or anxiety. It teaches her to wait, to watch, and to let things unfold naturally. It teaches her that if a man is truly interested, he will show it without her having to pull it out of him. And if he's not, she won't waste her time trying to turn potential into reality. She won't cling to mixed signals. She won't interpret inconsistency as chemistry. She respects herself too much for that. A woman like this understands that emotional security comes from within, not from a man's actions. And when a man meets a woman like this, he can't play games with her. He can't breadcrumb her. He can't disappear and expect her to be waiting like nothing happened. He can't string her along with empty promises. A woman who is emotionally independent doesn't tolerate emotional chaos. She doesn't tolerate uncertainty packages romance. She doesn't tolerate half love or half effort. She requires stability because she provides stability. She requires honesty because she gives honesty. She requires presence because she offers presence. And if a man can't rise to that standard, she walks quietly, gracefully, and confidently. This forces a man to step up, not because she demands it, but because he feels the weight of losing a woman who cannot be replaced. Emotional independence creates an energy that makes a man want to be better. He knows that a woman like her doesn't need him. She chooses him. And being chosen by someone who doesn't need you is one of the greatest honors a man can experience. It humbles him. It inspires him. It challenges him. Because now he knows he can't rely on charm alone. He has to bring effort, consistency, and emotional maturity. Men crave emotional independence in a woman more than they admit because it removes the pressure of being her only support system. A dependent woman requires constant reassurance and caretaking. A dependent woman can't stand on her own. A dependent woman looks to him for every answer, every solution, every direction. That kind of weight becomes exhausting, not because she's unworthy, but because she loses herself in the relationship. But an emotionally independent woman, she brings balance. She brings peace. She brings internal strength. She brings emotional stability. She becomes the calm in his storm instead of the storm he has to calm. And let me tell you something else. An emotionally independent woman is deeply attractive because she has emotional discipline. She doesn't fall into arguments out of frustration. She doesn't react impulsively. She doesn't take everything personally. She doesn't crumble when things get tough. She knows how to express what she feels without losing control of herself. She knows how to listen without becoming defensive. She knows how to communicate without allowing her emotions to drown the conversation. That level of control is rare, and rare things catch a man's attention. A woman who is emotionally independent also gives a man the space to be himself. She doesn't smother him. She doesn't demand constant attention. She doesn't interrogate him out of insecurity. She doesn't require him to fill emotional gaps she hasn't healed. Because she's done the work, she's healed herself, she's grown, she's learned her own patterns, and now she brings a healthier version of herself to the table. That makes the entire relationship more peaceful, more stable, and more grounded. A man will always reveal who he is when he's with a woman who stands firm emotionally. If he's genuine, he'll rise to her level. He'll match her effort, mirror her strength, and value her deeply. If he's immature or unready, he'll pull away, avoid accountability, or sabotage the connection. Either way, she wins, because emotional independence protects her from wasting time. This kind of woman doesn't fear loss because she doesn't fear herself. She knows she can stand alone. She knows she can rebuild. She knows she can thrive. And when a man sees that kind of confidence, he sees something rare. He sees a woman he can't play with, can't manipulate, can't take lightly. He sees a woman who elevates him simply by being who she is. And that makes her unforgettable.